The Toyota Corolla has always been an affordable and efficient hybrid compact car. For 2023, it receives a few updates such as new styling, a new infotainment system, more power under the hood, and an all-wheel drive system. So do these new updates, especially those last two, still make this 2023 model an affordable and efficient compact car? Let's go for a drive and find out. So the Corolla Hybrid still has a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine under the hood, but instead of producing about 121 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque like last year's model, this year's model produces 134 horsepower and 156 pound-feet of torque. In all honesty though, you probably won't feel those extra 13 horsepower and 10 extra pound-feet of torque, unless perhaps you drive the 2022 and the 2023 cars back to back. It's been 1 year since I last drove the Toyota Corolla Hybrid, and this year's model, to me it feels exactly the same in terms of power. The car still takes quite a while to get up to speed, especially when you're merging onto a highway. And the engine is really loud when you're going up a steep hill, or again when you're trying to overtake someone on a highway. But of course, straight line speed is not what this car is about. It's about fuel economy. And with the addition of that rear electric motor and the added weight that it also brings with it, the fuel economy of this 2023 Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive is just a tiny bit worse than the front-wheel drive model. It is rated at 5 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 5.7 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. For this week that I've had this car, I've been averaging 5.1 liters per 100 kilometers. The last time I drove the Corolla Hybrid, the front-wheel drive version, I managed to average 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers. So yes, technically this car is a little bit less fuel efficient, but it's still pretty good. The battery gets recharged by the engine or regenerative braking. You can get more regen braking if you put the shifter into B, but if you do that, then the engine will turn on and it'll stay on. So you don't want to be driving around in that mode. Realistically, you only want to use that mode when you're going down a mountain, for example. Speaking of the shifter, it is connected to a CVT automatic, and this transmission doesn't try to fool you into thinking it's anything else. There's no virtual gears, and it just holds the RPMs to wherever they need to be depending on the amount of throttle that you put into it. This car does have an EV only mode, however it will automatically get disengaged if the speed climbs beyond 40 kilometers an hour or if you push too hard on the throttle pedal. But if you leave the car in its normal hybrid mode, you can actually accelerate from a stop to about 60 kilometers an hour on electricity alone. Of course, it'll have to be a slow and gradual acceleration with a nearly fully charged battery, but it can be done. With the addition of the electric motor powering the back wheels, the 2023 Toyota Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive doesn't struggle to get off the line when you find yourself on loose soil or snow. But don't mistake this for some sort of TRD rally car. Once the car gets moving off the line, power is sent primarily to the front wheels. Sometimes power is sent to the rear motor around corners, but this Corolla still feels and drives like a front-wheel drive compact economy car. Steering is light and numb feeling. The suspension is composed around corners and over bumps, but it's still no Mazda 3. Push the Corolla Hybrid too hard into a corner and it'll understeer in agony. But that's totally fine because this car's natural habitat is a bustling city. The softness of the suspension gives the Corolla Hybrid a comfortable ride on city streets. It doesn't feel overly bouncy, and the seats also aid in the comfort by being soft yet supportive. In a city environment, the car is generally quiet. It's on highways that you'll notice more road noise from the tires. You'll also be noticing the engine quite often when accelerating either from a stop or when overtaking another vehicle. One annoying sound that you'll hear often is the fake electric car noise that is mandated by law. This is played through a speaker at speeds below 30 kilometers an hour, but it's almost as though the speaker is placed inside the cabin rather than outside the car. The transition from electric to the gasoline engine is seamless when the car is on the move. If the engine turns on while the car is stationary, at a stoplight for example, the jolt of the engine starting is more noticeable. The interior of the Corolla Hybrid remains largely unchanged for the 2023 model year. Still have the same steering wheel mounted controls, same climate controls, which are physical buttons and physical knobs. I like that a lot. You still get a wireless charging pad, heated seats, and you still do have a little bit of gloss black plastic right around the shifter. I'm not a big fan of that, but at least it's not overdone like how it is in the Kia Niro, for example. You can check out that review up here if you're interested. One thing that has changed is the infotainment and the touchscreen. It is now running on the new Toyota infotainment system, and if you're coming from the previous generation Toyota infotainment system, this can seem a little bit daunting at first, but once you start to play around with all the different settings and menu items, it does become pretty logical in how it's all structured. One drawback to this infotainment system, depending on your point of view, is that the navigation system is now subscription-based. However, it does allow for wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And I have one little thing to mention about that, and that is I've had a couple of issues here and there in terms of connecting my phone to the infotainment system and using Android Auto. When I first paired my phone with this infotainment system, it connected just fine. Android Auto worked just fine. However, after I shut off the car and then came back to it a few minutes later or the next day, then it kept popping up with an error saying that it couldn't connect Android Auto to my phone. Bluetooth still worked just fine. Streaming media from my phone worked just fine, just not Android Auto. I had to unpair my phone with this infotainment system and then repair it, and then it would work again. Now, the only reason why I mention this is because I have driven other Toyota vehicles with this new infotainment system, like the Tundra TRD Pro, and I haven't had any connectivity issues with that one. However, with this one, obviously I do have a few connectivity issues. It might just be this particular car, so it might be different for you, and thankfully this infotainment system does allow for over-the-air updates. So perhaps in the future, Toyota will release an update that will solve this connectivity issue. In terms of space in the Corolla Hybrid, I am 6'4" and I have just enough space up here in the front. Knees are a little bit close to the dashboard, but they're not touching in any way, and headroom is adequate. This seat is lowered to its lowest position, and on the driver's side it is power operated, while the passenger side is manually operated. The Corolla Hybrid is one of the smaller compact cars on sale today, and you really notice that in these back seats. Having said that, it's actually not too bad. So behind my driving position, yes, my knees are right up against the back seats. However, they don't feel squished in any way, and I have plenty of space for my feet, even though this seat is in its lowest position. However, as you can tell, headroom isn't the greatest. There is an indentation behind the sunroof mechanism, but my hair is still brushing up against the headliner. However, my biggest gripe about the back seats has to do with the doors. They don't really open all that much, so it makes getting in and out much more difficult than if they were to open a little bit wider. But apart from that, I wouldn't mind sitting back here for shorter journeys. I think I'd be just fine. In the trunk, the 2023 Toyota Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive has 371 liters of space, which is similar to the Mazda 3 sedan, but quite a bit less than the Hyundai Elantra and Honda Civic sedans. Also, the back seats can be folded for more space, but there is a step between them and the floor of the trunk. As is to be expected, This new all-wheel drive Toyota Corolla Hybrid is more expensive than the front-wheel drive version. Although the 2023 front-wheel drive version of the Corolla Hybrid is also more expensive than the previous model years by $740 Canadian at $25,990 Canadian starting price. This 2023 Toyota Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive XSE trim will cost you $34,290 Canadian. You can get the all-wheel drive system in the base LE trim and it'll cost you $27,490 Canadian. This top-spec trim of the Corolla Hybrid has every feature that is available on the Corolla. These include heated seats in all four corners, leatherette upholstery, which Toyota calls soft tex, a heated steering wheel, a power sunroof, automatic climate control, wireless phone charging pad, push-button start and keyless entry, power driver seat, and LED headlights. Speaking of the headlights, they are slimmer for this 2023 model year, along with sharper bumper lines and a larger grille. The SE and XSE trims get this new, sportier design, while lower trims look similar to last year's model. The rear keeps the same taillights as before, but the SE and the XSE trim add a faux diffuser and twin exhaust pipes. And finally, the 2023 Corolla Hybrid is equipped with standard Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. This adds automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning with lane keep, automatic high beams, and adaptive cruise control. In Canada, we also get blind spot sensors with rear cross traffic alert as standard, while in the United States it's optional. So although this new all-wheel drive version of the Corolla Hybrid is more expensive than the front-wheel drive version, and last year's front-wheel drive version at that, it is still really fuel efficient and still pretty affordable. However, I would not go for this XSE trim. It's a bit too expensive. The one that I would go for is the SE trim, which is one trim below this one. You're still getting a lot of features and you're getting the benefit of all-wheel drive if you want it. If you want the Corolla Hybrid with just front-wheel drive, you can still get that as well. Yes, it is more expensive than last year's model, but not by that much, less than $1,000 Canadian. So overall, the 2023 Corolla Hybrid is still really fuel efficient, still affordable, and you do have the added benefits of all-wheel drive if you want it. If you'd like to know more about this 2023 Toyota Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive, I wrote a more detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or most likely, it'll probably be an SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. As long as I don't get run over.